Okay, so now we're going to talk about some glassware and some containers that we're going to use to hold and measure different liquids. First thing is a beaker. Now you notice that there is some liquid in here, and if you look at the numbers, there are some numbers going up and there's some numbers going down. We are going to be, for the most part this year, focusing on the numbers going up. So if you have it down here, it means you have about 50 milliliters in your beaker. If you're up to this line, you have about 100. If you're up to this line, 150, and so forth. Not 250, and then if you fill it up higher, you're at 200, and if you fill it up even higher, you're at 150. That doesn't make sense. These numbers are helpful when you're pouring out liquid. So if you have it all the way up at the top, you have 300 milliliters. If you pour some out, and now you only have down to here, you've poured out 50, pour some more out, now it's down to here, you've poured out 100, and so forth. So you primarily want to keep measuring as you go up, as you fill it up. Now beakers are not a great tool to measure, because as you look, I'm right about that line, but I know it's at least 50, and I know it's certainly not 100, and actually it's a little bit below that line, and I know in between 50 and 100 is 75. So I can guess that it's somewhere between 50 and 75. No more than 75, no less than 50. But that's pretty much all I know, so there's a lot of uncertainty here. So let me put it into another container. Now this is called an Erlenmeyer flask, or you could just call it a flask. So I take the liquid, I just pour it in, and these are great for swirling. And a little magic here, magically turn green. But these Erlenmeyer flasks, again, just like the beaker, they're not great for measuring at all. I can see in this one that here's the 50 mark, here's the 100, there's that 75 milliliter mark. Now suddenly it looks like it's a little bit above that 75 mark. So a lot of uncertainty. This one says it's at least 75, but not quite 100, so now I'm on the top side of 75. I really don't know exactly what it is. So I want to use something that's going to allow me more precise measurements. This, by the way, is a smaller beaker. We have lots of different size beakers. This one, notice the measurements go up by 20s, and then the little hash marks are the 10s. So we can narrow it down. This one, we might say it's between 20. Actually, let's just put some in there. So now it's above the 20 line, but below the hash mark. So I know it's at least 20, but less than 30. So my range is between 20 and 30. It's now just a 10 milliliter range. Whereas before, it was 75 up to 100, low 75, tops 100. So now it's a 25 milliliter range. So we're looking at different size ranges here. This will be a little bit more precise of a measurement, but still, I've got a 10-point range where I don't know really where it is. So instead, I'm going to use one of these different graduated cylinders to measure. So let's take this and pour it in here. You'll use all different sizes this year, depending on the amount that you're going to be measuring. Now, a couple things with the graduated cylinders. You might remember from your different years of science that the liquid doesn't lay flat across the top. It's going to be curved, and we call that a meniscus. So when you measure your graduated, or the liquid in the graduated cylinder, you are going to bend down. You're not going to hold it up like this. You're going to actually bend down so it's eye level, and you're going to look at the bottom of that curve. It's going to walk up the sides a little bit of the glass because it's attracted to the glass. So you want to look at the low part. So get level with it and look, and this says it's actually about 42, a little bit more than 42. And I know that the 42 line is here and the 43 line's there. I know it's in between 42 and 43. So that range just went from 25 in this beaker, and I knew it was at least this much, but not quite this much, 25 range, down to a 10 milliliter range. That range got a little tighter. And now we're even more precise. Now it went down to a 1 milliliter range. So I know it's at least this and not much more than that. So it's in between in that 1 milliliter range. So I've just reduced it. This is a lot more precise, a lot more accurate. So now I've got my liquid here, and I could even put it into a smaller graduated cylinder that'll cut that range even tighter. Let me add a little bit more. This is just water with food coloring, by the way. All right, so if I look at this one, again, I want to look at the meniscus. This one's at least 8, and all these little hash marks are my 10th spot. So it's at least 8.4, but not quite 8.5. So that range went from a 25 milliliter range to a 10 milliliter range to a 1 milliliter range. Now we're down in the 10th spot. So now I can narrow this down to 8.4 and a half, maybe 8.45. So the equipment will really tell you how many decimal places you can go and how precise that measurement can be. Now let's say we need something even more precise. This is called a burette. We'll use these a little bit this year, not much. But if you're in a higher level chem class, you go to a college class, take AP, you'll use these a ton. And basically, these are a nice tool for dumping out or draining a certain amount of liquid. There's what we call a stopcock down here. Close it off. If it's horizontal, it's closed. And then you take we'll use a big amount. You take a certain amount of liquid and you carefully, usually use a funnel for this. So you carefully pour it into here. Now let's say that's up to the 32, and again I can go with the 10th spot. So that's 32.3, and it's halfway between the 0.3 and the 0.4. So that range is really tight, 0.3, 0.4. So I'll say it's, it looks like it's right on the 33, or 32.3. So I'll say it's 32.30. It's right on the money. So I'll add that 0 to let somebody know that it's right on there. Now, if I want to drain out some of this, let's say in here I need exactly 1.5 milliliters. What I do is I open this up and I watch as this drops. And when it gets 1.5 milliliters lower, then I stop it. So I'll drain a little bit. It's going to come out down here. Drain a little bit. Notice how tiny that stream is? It comes out really, really slowly. And then you can stop it up. And now I know that I've drained out about 1.5 or whatever you need. Okay. So again, it drains a little tiny bit at a time. And we'll use these with acids and bases when we want to neutralize substances, and you have to be super, super precise. Okay, so that's a burette. And other equipment we'll use, not necessarily glassware, but when we're dealing with transferring liquids from here to there, we'll use these guys, eyedroppers and pipettes. There'll be all sorts of different size pipettes. And you're going to squeeze the bulb, draw it up into the bulb, and then you can squeeze it out. Same thing with these eyedroppers, and I'm sure you've used them before.